Most people don't lose their dreams in one dramatic moment. Dreams don't usually collapse overnight. They fade slowly, quietly, through small habits that seem harmless at first. The tragedy is not that people fail, but that they fail without realizing why. They blame circumstances, people, luck, or timing, when in reality, it is their daily habits that quietly betray their future. The first habit most people ignore is lack of self-discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when motivation is absent. Many people wait to feel ready, inspired, or confident, but dreams don't respond to feelings, they respond to discipline. When discipline is missing, consistency disappears, and without consistency, even the greatest dream remains an idea instead of becoming a reality. The second habit is choosing comfort over growth. Comfort feels safe, familiar, and predictable. Growth feels uncomfortable, uncertain, and demanding. Most people choose comfort daily, sleeping a little longer, avoiding difficult conversations, postponing hard work. Over time, comfort becomes a prison. Dreams demand discomfort, and anyone unwilling to be uncomfortable will eventually become dissatisfied. The third habit is poor time awareness. Time is the one resource everyone receives equally, yet it is used unequally. Many people don't waste time intentionally, they waste it unconsciously. Hours disappear into distractions, excuses, and activities that add no value. Dreams require intentional use of time. When time is not respected, potential slowly expires. The fourth habit people ignore is lack of personal responsibility. It is easier to blame systems, people, or circumstances than to confront one's own decisions. But responsibility is empowering. The moment a person accepts responsibility for their choices, habits, and direction, they regain control. Dreams belong to those who stop blaming and start owning their future. The fifth habit is surrounding yourself with the wrong environment. Your environment includes the people you listen to, the content you consume, and the conversations you engage in. Many dreams die not because of failure, but because of negative influence. When people around you normalize mediocrity, excuses, and fear, your dream slowly loses oxygen. The sixth habit is waiting for perfect conditions. Perfection is an illusion that delays progress. Most successful people did not start ready, they started willing. Dreams grow through imperfect action, learning, adjusting, and persistence. Waiting for perfect timing often means waiting forever. The seventh habit is lack of learning and self-development. The world changes constantly, but many people stop growing mentally. Dreams require upgraded thinking, new skills, and continuous learning. When learning stops, growth stops. And when growth stops, dreams stagnate. The eighth habit is ignoring small progress. Many people quit because they expect massive results too quickly. They fail to respect small improvements, daily effort, and gradual growth. Dreams are built in small steps repeated daily, not in one big breakthrough. The ninth habit is giving up too early. Resistance, delay, and difficulty are part of every meaningful journey. Many people interpret obstacles as signs to quit rather than signs to mature. Dreams often test commitment before they reward effort. Dreams don't fail because they are impossible. They fail because people ignore the habits that sustain them. Change your habits and your direction changes. Change your discipline and your future responds. The moment you correct what you ignore daily is the moment your dream begins to recover. Most people believe dreams fail because of lack of talent, intelligence, money, or opportunity. That belief itself is the first hidden problem. Talent can open a door, but it cannot keep you inside the room. Intelligence can give ideas, but it cannot execute them for you. Money can accelerate progress, but it cannot replace discipline. The uncomfortable truth is that many people are capable of more than they ever achieve, yet their dreams quietly fail, not because they are incapable, but because their daily habits contradict their desires. A dream is not sustained by motivation, it is sustained by habits. Motivation is emotional and temporary. Habits are structural and permanent. When habits do not align with the dream slowly starves. Many people speak passionately about what they want, but their routines reveal what they truly value. You cannot say you want success while practicing habits that only support comfort. Dreams respond to what you do repeatedly, not to what you say occasionally. Ignoring daily habits creates a dangerous illusion, the illusion of progress without change. People read motivational quotes, watch inspiring videos, talk about goals, and feel productive without actually becoming disciplined. This false sense of movement delays real transformation. Over time, frustration grows because effort feels real, but results remain absent. That frustration often leads people to quit, not because the dream is impossible, but because their habits were never designed to carry it. Small habits appear insignificant, which is why they are ignored. Sleeping late one day does not feel harmful. Skipping preparation once does not feel destructive. Avoiding responsibility today does not feel like failure. But habits compound silently. What you repeat daily becomes your direction. When discipline is missing in small areas, it will be missing when pressure increases. Dreams require structure, and structure is built through habits, not wishes. Many people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is harsh, rigid, or extreme. In reality, discipline is simply self-respect in action. It is choosing what benefits your future over what pleases your present. When discipline is absent, emotions take control, and emotions are unreliable leaders. They change with mood, energy, and circumstances. Dreams cannot survive under emotional leadership alone. Another reason people ignore habits is because habits expose responsibility. It is easier to blame external factors than to examine internal patterns. Habits force honesty. They reveal whether you are serious or simply interested. Most people are interested in success, but very few are committed to the habits success demands. Commitment shows up early, consistently, and quietly, long before results appear. Habits also shape identity. What you do repeatedly shapes how you see yourself. When someone consistently avoids discipline, they begin to identify as someone who struggles, lacks focus, or has bad luck. That identity then reinforces the same habits that created it. This cycle is powerful and dangerous. Breaking it requires awareness and intentional change, not sudden motivation. Dreams do not require perfection, but they do require alignment. When habits align with goals, progress becomes inevitable, even if slow. When habits oppose goals, failure becomes inevitable, even if delayed. This is why many people fail later rather than sooner. They make early progress through excitement, then collapse when habits are required to sustain momentum. Ignoring habits also creates inconsistency. Inconsistency creates self-doubt. Self-doubt weakens action, and weakened action eventually kills belief. People often say they lost belief in themselves, but belief was not lost. It was eroded through repeated inconsistency. Discipline protects belief. Habits stabilize confidence. This is where the real work begins, not with dreaming bigger, but with correcting what is repeated daily. Before chasing results, habits must be examined. Before expecting change, routines must be challenged. Dreams fail quietly when habits are ignored, and they begin to revive the moment habits are taken seriously. This understanding naturally leads to the next issue most people overlook, the dangerous comfort that keeps bad habits alive and convinces people they are safe, while they are actually stuck. Once habits are exposed as the true foundation of success or failure, the next uncomfortable truth becomes clear. Most people do not protect bad habits because they are ignorant, but because those habits keep them comfortable. Comfort is the environment where undisciplined habits survive and grow. It is the silent agreement people make with themselves to avoid strain, risk, and effort, even while expecting extraordinary outcomes. When habits contradict dreams, comfort is usually the reason they are allowed to continue. Comfort feels harmless because it rarely announces itself as danger. It disguises itself as rest, balance, or taking it easy. There is nothing wrong with rest, but comfort becomes destructive when it replaces growth. Many people confuse comfort with peace, but peace comes from progress, not avoidance. Comfort avoids pressure, growth requires pressure. Dreams demand expansion, and expansion never happens inside a comfort zone. Comfort protects inconsistency. When discipline begins to feel uncomfortable, Comfort provides an excuse to stop. This is why habits collapse when pressure appears. People start strong when conditions are favorable, but the moment effort becomes demanding, comfort intervenes. Over time, this trains the mind to quit whenever discomfort arises. Dreams, however, interpret discomfort as a signal for development, not retreat. Choosing comfort repeatedly reshapes priorities. Short-term relief becomes more valuable than long-term fulfillment. People delay important actions because discomfort feels urgent while dreams feel distant. This creates a dangerous imbalance where temporary feelings override permanent consequences. Comfort teaches people to negotiate with discipline. Just today, just this once, I'll start again tomorrow. These negotiations slowly dismantle consistency. Comfort also weakens resilience. When a person avoids difficulty regularly, their tolerance for struggle decreases. Small challenges feel overwhelming. Normal resistance feels like failure. Dreams involve rejection, delay, and uncertainty. A comfort-trained mind interprets these experiences as signs to stop rather than lessons to learn. Over time, this leads to emotional fragility disguised as caution. Another hidden danger of comfort is stagnation disguised as stability. Many people remain in familiar routines not because they are progressing, but because change feels risky. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. Comfort convinces people that staying where they are is wisdom, even when stagnation is slowly eroding their potential. Dreams require movement, and movement always disrupts comfort. Comfort also shapes expectations. When people grow accustomed to ease, they expect results without sacrifice. They admire success stories but reject the discomfort behind them. This creates entitlement without preparation. Dreams do not respond to entitlement, they respond to effort. When effort is avoided, frustration increases and motivation declines. The connection between comfort and ignored habits is direct. Undisciplined habits survive because they feel easier in the moment. Discipline is uncomfortable because it demands structure, limits, and delayed gratification. Comfort teaches people to prioritize how they feel now over who they want to become later. Over time, this erodes identity and purpose. Breaking away from comfort does not require extreme action, it requires honest awareness. Growth begins the moment a person stops asking, "What feels good now?" and starts asking, "What serves my future?" Discomfort becomes a tool instead of a threat. Discipline becomes a form of freedom rather than punishment. When comfort is confronted, habits begin to change. When habits change, consistency becomes possible. And once consistency emerges, another reality surfaces. Motivation is unreliable, but consistency is what carries progress forward. This realization naturally leads to the next overlooked principle. Why consistency, not motivation, determines whether dreams survive long enough to become real. Once comfort is challenged and discipline is no longer negotiated, a deeper realization begins to form. Motivation cannot be trusted to carry a dream. Comfort trains people to act only when they feel ready, excited, or confident. When comfort is removed, many wait for motivation to replace it. This is where progress stalls for most people. Motivation is emotional, unpredictable, and temporary. Consistency, however, is mechanical, dependable, and transformative. Dreams survive on consistency, not inspiration. Motivation feels powerful at the beginning. It creates excitement, vision, and emotional energy. But motivation fades when routine begins. The moment effort becomes repetitive, boring, or slow, motivation weakens. This is not a personal failure, it is human nature. Expecting motivation to remain high is unrealistic. Successful people are not more motivated, they are more consistent. They build systems that function even when emotions fluctuate. Consistency is discipline in motion. It is the habit of showing up regardless of mood, conditions, or enthusiasm. When comfort has been confronted, consistency becomes possible because action is no longer dependent on feeling good. This is where real growth starts. Progress becomes quiet, steady, and often unnoticed at first, but it compounds. Small actions repeated daily create momentum that motivation alone can never sustain. Inconsistent action creates confusion and self-doubt. When people work intensely for a short period and then stop, they experience emotional exhaustion without lasting results. This cycle produces frustration and loss of confidence. Over time, they begin to believe they are incapable, when in reality they were simply inconsistent. Consistency builds trust with oneself. Every repeated action reinforces identity. I am someone who follows through. Consistency also protects habits from external disruption. Life is unpredictable. Energy levels change. Circumstances shift. Motivation responds to these changes. Consistency does not. When habits are built into routine, progress continues even when conditions are imperfect. Dreams require longevity, and longevity requires systems that do not rely on emotional strength. Many people misunderstand consistency as intensity. They believe they must do everything at once, with maximum effort, to be effective. This leads to burnout. True consistency is sustainable effort. It values repetition over force. It respects limits while still demanding commitment. A small action done daily is more powerful than a large action done occasionally. Consistency also clarifies direction. When actions are repeated, feedback becomes visible. Progress can be measured. Adjustments can be made. Motivation reacts to results. Consistency creates them. This shifts control from emotion to structure. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like it today?" the question becomes, "What is required today?" This mindset removes unnecessary decision-making and conserves energy. The absence of consistency explains why many dreams collapse after a strong start. Early excitement creates motion, but without consistent habits, momentum fades. People interpret this as loss of passion, when it is actually lack of structure. Passion is not meant to lead, it is meant to support discipline. Consistency also trains patience. Results rarely appear immediately. Repetition teaches endurance. It prepares the mind to operate without constant reward. Dreams demand this maturity. Without it, people quit prematurely, not because progress isn't happening, but because it isn't visible yet. As consistency replaces motivation as the primary driver, responsibility becomes unavoidable. When progress no longer depends on feelings, excuses lose power. This transition reveals the next critical challenge. Most people avoid acting without clarity, waiting for perfect understanding instead of committing to disciplined action. Once consistency replaces motivation as the engine of progress, another obstacle quietly reveals itself: the habit of waiting for clarity before acting. Many people believe they must fully understand every step, outcome, and risk before committing to disciplined action. This belief feels responsible, but in reality, it becomes a sophisticated form of delay. After comfort has been confronted and consistency has begun, waiting for clarity becomes the next excuse that threatens momentum. Clarity is often misunderstood as a prerequisite for action, when in fact clarity is usually the result of action. People want certainty before they move, but certainty rarely exists at the beginning of any meaningful pursuit. Dreams involve unknowns by nature. When people demand complete understanding before starting, they unknowingly choose stagnation over progress. Discipline does not wait for clarity. It creates clarity through repetition and experience. This mindset is closely connected to inconsistency. When action depends on understanding, progress becomes selective. People act only when things feel obvious or safe. The moment confusion appears, action pauses. Over time, this trains the mind to associate uncertainty with danger instead of opportunity. Dreams do not unfold in straight lines. They require movement through uncertainty, not avoidance of it. Waiting for clarity also creates intellectual paralysis. People overthink decisions, analyze possibilities endlessly, and seek reassurance from others. This gives the illusion of preparation while avoiding commitment. Information becomes a substitute for execution. Learning without application creates comfort in knowledge without risk in action. Consistency, built earlier, begins to weaken under the weight of excessive thinking. Discipline works differently. Discipline asks for obedience to process, not prediction of outcomes. It focuses on what can be controlled today, rather than what is uncertain tomorrow. This is where many people struggle. They want guarantees before effort. Discipline offers no guarantees, only direction. But direction, when followed consistently, produces results over time. Acting without clarity does not mean acting blindly. It means accepting that understanding grows with experience. Every step reveals the next step. When people refuse to move until everything makes sense, they never gather the information that only movement can provide. Progress is educational. It teaches through feedback, mistakes, and adjustments. Dreams require this learning curve. Fear plays a significant role here. Uncertainty triggers fear of failure, judgment, and wasted effort. Waiting for clarity becomes a protective mechanism. It feels safer to delay than to risk being wrong. But discipline requires courage, the courage to act without full visibility. Avoiding action does not eliminate risk, it only delays growth. Consistency strengthens discipline, and discipline weakens fear. When actions become routine, uncertainty loses its power. The mind learns that it can function even without perfect understanding. Confidence grows not from clarity, but from evidence of follow-through. Each disciplined action builds trust in one's ability to adapt. This habit of waiting for clarity also affects responsibility. When people delay action, they preserve the ability to blame uncertainty. Once they act, responsibility becomes personal. This is uncomfortable. Discipline removes escape routes. It forces ownership. And ownership is necessary for progress. As disciplined action continues despite uncertainty, a new awareness emerges. Progress is shaped not only by internal effort, but by external influences. Environment begins to matter more. The people, conversations, and information surrounding a person either support disciplined action or slowly undermine it. This realization leads directly into the next overlooked factor: how environment silently determines whether consistency survives or collapses.